most lawyers, most legal models in this area are overly simplistic. And if we've seen anything already today, it's just the heterogeneity and the diversity of approaches and facts in this area is remarkable. Another thing is that Mark mentioned just about the public goods in this area that need to be created. And I have to say that there's hardly any legal or economic model for the creation of most of this, or regulatory model for that standpoint. And that's some of why we have a policy session at the end. But I'm up here to introduce to the podium my provost, Dr. G. Morrison, who's going to give a brief introduction and welcome. We welcomed her to BU 9 months ago as our new provost and chief academic officer, and I welcome her to the podium, and then we'll have lunch. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and as the provost and chief academic officer at Boston University, I'm delighted to welcome all of you to this important and timely series of conversations which, as you all know, address critical, if not absolutely frightening issues. I'm a geologist by training and study rocks, which, while not entirely inorganic in nature, at least they're not alive. And so it's fascinating to hear some of these discussions. This partnership between BU and Harvard and the really critical interdisciplinary exchange that comprises this conference brings together experts in public health and modeling and the biology of drug-resistant pathogens, and is essential to finding solutions to some of our most important public health issues. The conversations here today are vital and will advance our progress in combating antimicrobial resistance. As you are all aware, antimicrobial resistance threatens not only the viability of our life-saving antibiotics, but the entire framework of medicine that relies on antibiotics. In a post-antibiotic era, so many of the life-saving procedures that we use on a daily basis in our hospitals, everything from cardiac procedures to kidney transplants, would be a great deal riskier, if not impossible. And the world as we know it would be a far more dangerous place. My 13-year-old son just saw the movie Contagion, and you know, my experience with my discipline when it's made into a movie is that, you know, much of what the movie contains is factually incorrect, but nonetheless it can spark extraordinary interest and conversation, and my 13-year-old was unable to stop talking about issues around disease proliferation for days and days on end. Resistance is certainly a biological problem, and biologists and scientists are well represented here today. The science panels are filled with talented researchers, including our own Jim Collins, who I think slipped out back to his lab. But resistance is also a social issue, one that's promoted or hindered by how our society and our laws react and adapt to the evolutionary imperatives. Scientists recognize antimicrobial resistance as a complex ecological system, and policy makers and lawmakers and clinicians are moving towards this understanding as well. So for this reason, I'm delighted to see that the final session focuses on policy responses to antimicrobial resistance, including Kevin's work on the legal ecology of resistance. Kevin is an associate professor of law at BU and co-directs our highly regarded BU Health Law program. I'd also like to recognize this remarkable researcher and visionary who's largely responsible for this conference, Professor Mark Lipsitch, who leads the Center for Communicable Disease Dynamics at the Harvard School of Public Health. I know many of you have worked with Mark over the years, and so you're well aware of his outstanding reputation. He's perhaps equally well known as a generous and thoughtful colleague, giving of himself, his ideas, and his advocacy to promote the work of fellow researchers and, in fact, the public good. BU is honored to host this gathering and discussion, Mark, and we want to thank you for being the driving force behind it. So I hope the remainder of the panels and discussions are fruitful in continuing this important collaboration and in helping to advance the public understanding of such a critical 21st century challenge for medicine and for us all. You're certainly giving all of us something substantial to think about. So enjoy the rest of the conference. I think you're adjourning for lunch, and I hope the rest of the talks go well. Thank you very much.